Hi everyone, how are you guys doing? So yesterday we read the chapters 3 and 4, and this is where when the family moved to Petersville, and more so towards the end of chapter 4, um, Tristan, we found out Tristan's bedroom was in the attic, and he ended up, when they were ready to all go to bed, Tristan came downstairs to Janine's room and he climbed into bed with her. And that is where they started reading her favorite book. And that's why I was asking what your guys' favorite book was. And it was really interesting to see all different kinds of titles that you guys commented in the comments. So, I'm going to go ahead and read chapter 5. When I woke up that first morning, it was still dark, and my bed was wet. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't wet the bed since I was 2. It had to be just one more sign from the universe that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. Then, something dripped onto my nose, and I realized that my bed was actually and I realized that my wet bed was actually a sign that it was raining, and that there was a hole in the ceiling. Welcome to Petersville. Since it was still early, I tried to sleep some more, but it was too quiet, and I couldn't find a comfortable position out of the wet spot. So when the sky finally started to pick up, I decided to bike into town. Just because there wasn't a restaurant in Petersville didn't mean there was no bakery or bagel place. Somehow I made it down the rope ladder in the dark without breaking my neck or waking anybody. I wasn't interested in company or being told I couldn't go because it was too dark or too rainy or too whatever else my parents could come up with. The rain had almost stopped by the time I got outside, but there were puddles everywhere, and I really regretted my decision not to wear socks since they would have been useful to soak up the mud seeping into my sneakers. I ran across the lawn and around the back of the car. Ugh, Dad had loaded my bike on the rack first. I was going to have to undo all the straps on each bike and drag everybody else's off to get mine. If I had known that it was going to take, I probably would have stayed in bed, but it was too late now. My shoes were already soaked. I might as well have something to show for it, something like breakfast. Because I don't have a death wish, I walked my bike down Terror Mountain, my pet name for our driveway. Even walking, though, I had a hard time keeping control of the bike, and by the time I got to the bottom, my shins were sore from banging them so many times with the pedals. So do you know why Tristan nicknamed the driveway Terror Mountain? Do you remember what they said about their mountain in previous chapters? Think about it. It was because their driveway is so steep that it's kind of like a mountain. I walked the bike onto the main road, then climbed on and wobbled off. I hadn't ridden with cars before, and I kept turning around to check if one was behind me. My parents thought it was too dangerous to bike in the city traffic, so I'd only ever ridden in Central Park on weekends when cars aren't allowed. Even though I didn't see any cars as I set out for town that morning, I was sure one was bound to whiz by any second, knocking me into some ditch too deep to climb out of it. But the cars never came, and the longer I rode without seeing any, the more I relaxed. It was actually easier than biking in Central Park. The road was smoother, and there were no people or strollers or other bikes. It was just me and the road and the woods all around. Flying downhill, I opened my mouth and whooped without knowing why, excited that I wanted to, and nobody around to tell me to stop. I don't know how long I've been riding when I started up a monster hill, but it must have been a while because when I finally came over the top, there was a sign for Petersville. That's when I noticed the train tracks headed like me towards a traffic light and a cluster of low buildings. They couldn't have carried a train in a long time because some sections were missing and others had been tarred over. I got my bike at the traffic light even though there wasn't any actual traffic, car or people. Petersville was as dead as County Road 21B had been. So dead the place didn't even look real. It was more like one of those pretend towns they build for movies. And in this movie, something really bad had happened and everybody had moved away. The first 3 buildings in town were boarded up with plywood and had for sale signs out front. The Rennie's Gas Mart, a convenience store with 2 filling stations, showed signs of life. I crossed the street to check out some place called Turby's, hoping to find something better than packaged coffee cake that had probably been sitting on a shelf since before Zoe was born. Unfortunately, Turnby's wasn't a market or a bagel place or a bakery. I'm still not sure exactly what Turnby's is. Here's what was in the window that day: wool camping blankets, silly putty, fishing rods, socks, electric nose hair clippers, a space heater pipe cleaners, candy necklaces. It was as if Mr. Turnby woke up one morning and said, "I'm going to open a store and I'm going to sell whatever I feel like." Next to Turnby's was a general store, and the first and only thing I noticed about it was the large handwritten sign on the window. Yes, we have chocolate cream donuts. Those have to be the best 7 words you can read when you're starving and you just moved to a town that it's pretty clear anyone who has moved away from. Don't get me wrong, the strangers of sign wasn't lost on me. I mean, was that all they had? And if so, what about the store was general? But I was willing to focus on the positive: chocolate cream donuts. And all I had to do was wait till the store opened. The general store was the last building on that side of Main Street, so I crossed back over to check out the largest building in town, a 2-story brick house with a bright red door. Petersville Free Library. I read sadly on the sign over the door. Brooks are okay, but you can't eat them. Next to the library were 2 houses that must have been identical at one point, but now look like before and after in one of those TV shows where people get strangers to come fix up their house. Before was covered in peeling, dirty paint, and had broken windows and a mud pit front yard. Beside it, which was the after, exploded in blinding yellow with electric blue trim. A Gatorade green lawn rolled out in front of the house, and a sign on the porch read Dr. Charney Family Clinic. After it looked like it had been dropped on Main Street from another world, a happier, better world like me. The last building in town, that's right, that was it, was all by itself, far from the others, and if the general store windows hadn't still been dark, I wouldn't have gone to see it. Just past the clinic, the train tracks popped up again, and like last time, they and I were headed to the same place, the 1-story cottage with wavy trim like Mom puts on gingerbread houses. When we got there, the track set off at the back of the building, and I stopped out front. A Petersville sign hung over the front door, and long benches lined the wide porch. I leaned my bike against the porch steps and looked through one of the broken windows. Inside was a bare ticket window, more benches, and a tree about my size growing out of a crack in the middle of the floor. Soda cans, candy wrappers, and paper bags filled the corners of the room. It didn't surprise me that the train didn't stop in Petersville anymore. Why would it bother? Who wanted to come here? Besides, you wouldn't want to make it too easy for the few people left to leave. When I turned around, a light had come on in the general store, so even though it was raining again, I hopped back on my bike. I was soaked by the time I reached the store, but who cared about a little water when there were chocolate cream donuts to be had? "I'll take a dozen," I called out, barely through the door. "Eggs are in the cooler," said a small, wrinkled woman sitting at a counter at the back of the store. She had a long, yellow-white hair and was studying a book of Sudoku puzzles. "Not eggs, chocolate cream donuts," I pointed to the sign. Just saying the words made my stomach rumble so loudly the woman's head shot up and eyebrows raised. After giving me a quick once over, she went back to her puzzles. "No donuts." Uh-oh. "Are they not ready yet? I can wait." "We don't make donuts anymore." "Not ever?" The disappointment was crushing. "Not ever." "But the sign." I pointed at it again with both hands. The woman signed, then closed her book. "Yeah, well, most people know better than to ask. Besides, I like 'em to remember," she said, and grinned, showing a mouthful of teeth that perfectly matched the color of her hair. Now I knew why everyone had moved away. It was this woman. She was evil. First she had taken away the town's donuts. Now she was shoving the memory of them down everybody's throat with that sign. I don't understand. Were they bad? "Were they bad?" she snorted and pointed to a frame on the counter. I picked it up and wiped the glass. There was a newspaper clipping in it with the headline, "Small Town Store Hits It Big with Chocolate Cream Heaven." This was just cruel. So if they were so good, why don't you make them anymore? Too much work. After the story, people came in here from all over, all hours of the day and night. Nearly drove me crazy. I really had no choice. Just in case you think you don't get it, let me tell you, you do. The general store's chocolate cream donuts were so good and people liked them so much they decided not to make them anymore. But weren't you making a lot of money from them if they were so popular? The woman waved me away like this question was so stupid she wouldn't even answer it. Do you sell anything like donuts? I asked hopefully. I'm mostly just hardware now, and eggs. She pointed to the egg carton stacked on the cooler behind me. I got some chickens a couple years ago and thought, why not? Won't find any better. Yolks are orange. Was that good? I opened one of the cartons. The eggs looked like something out of Dr. Seuss. Some green, some blue, some brown, all different sizes, including one no bigger than a marble. Where are the white ones? Different chickens. Oh, I said, pretending to understand. I'll take these then. They weren't donuts, but they had to be better than anything I find at the gas station. So that was the end of chapter 5, and I think Tristan isn't very, very happy with this lady because he rode the bike all the way into town to get some donuts, and then they advertised that they had donuts, but they really didn't have any donuts. I'd be pretty upset.